So yeah, this is a bit of a problem because this does require some effort of making definitions.
One question from my side. I'm sorry, it's Alexei. If we are speaking about the topic self-driving cars, just to clarify again, are we speaking about completely autonomous cars, or
Yeah.
as they are now, that driver, say, finally still is responsible? It's like half
Well,
driving. So like today we don't have a completely autonomous car, and they are
yeah,
forecasted for like in 10 years or
sure, but the both would still apply. So I
okay.
think that if a car is half autonomous, they might still have to do these decisions
Okay. Yeah.
because they could be in a self-driving mode when they need to make a decision, and this would be the decision that they are programmed to do.
Yep. Okay.
Okay.
I'm sorry, just give me a minute.
Okay, fine.
So I'm very sorry. All right, let's try something. And before we start, I would like to apologize if everything's gonna stay unclear. All right, so let's start this debate with defining what we consider as the personal damage. And the personal damage in this game would be something that is physically damaging our body or creating the damage to the a person that needed the medication or so on and so forth. So we believe that if this requires the doctors work to put this person unless it means that probably they have occurred some damage. Why we believe that the companies should do that, and why we believe that the state should require car companies to do that. Just as much as we require any other company to provide the security for their products, we will do the same thing for the self-driving cars, because we believe our main priority is to maintain less damage for people if they use this product, and essentially we want to secure them. And if this means further on, I will speak in my speech why we can sacrifice the occupants in the car. Basically, we want to secure and we want less damage to happen to all the people, and if there's going to create any tidal wave in community, just as any other product, we need to secure it with some kind of a guarantee. So for example, electrical cigarettes, we believe that this electrical cigarettes are the good alternative to the other cigarettes, and they were created in order to kind of like secure one person and provide them with less damage, even though somebody is still remaining as a victim and he still get those fumes. So we believe that this motions play presumes that there is always one person that will be victimized, and we want this victim to be less than like more people. If we have for example 5 people on the weights, we will choose 1 person to die and 5 to live. Why we think that this is okay with those who are presumably buying this self-driving cars? First of all, because we believe that every person, before they buy this car, they understand that there is a certain amount of risk that they will need to obtain, even if they are using this car. So therefore, we understand that some kind of a damage is inevitable, some kind of a risk is inevitable, and we believe that with this understanding, this person should understand that, and we as a company believe that their responsibility, this responsibility is taken among at the act of buying. So therefore we understand that in our hands, in the hands of the state, we need to provide this automatical machine with the possibility to count and do algorithm to kind of minimize the amount of death toll that might happen, and that all people and all sides understand that can presumably happen to them. Just to understand that most of why this machine was ever invented, because most of the people and most of the like human being, they don't have an they are not rational, and because of that we created something that could minimize our our mistakes. And this car is the presumably an example of what we have created and the alternative to minimizing our mistakes. And therefore we believe that if we have already brought some kind of a if we have put some energy to create something more rational, and we understand that it is more rational because we created it out of our irrationality. We believe that this car will make a decision better than we do, and will have the certain amount of information that unfortunately is not open to the human being with the amount of development that they are currently undergoing. So therefore we believe that this motion must run. Thank you.
I thank the Prime Minister for that speech and invite the Leader of Opposition to address the House.
Good evening, everybody, and I'd like to agree with my colleague and say that yes, indeed, we want to make our world safer, and we want cars to help us. And the key point here is that we want our cars to help us to live in a more safer, to drive in a more safer roads, rather than making additional risk to us. Our government says that okay, when I buy a car and when I take responsibility for this, I shall be happy. But that's not true, because all the time responsibility means also some means that I shall have to minimize the risk of happening. Whatever what is proposed by government, it means that I get responsibility from and I get increased risk of getting damage, of getting personal damage, while having completely no way of minimizing it. Because it's a point of the problem. It will be controlled by the car, and the algorithm of car will put me under the damage. I will speak of two parts of the personal vision, manufacturer's vision, and we'll speak also about responsibility. So from the personal point of view, we all want to be safer. That's why we say that we will try to buy the car that brings as much safety to us as possible. It means that if I will find out that in the advertisement or in the user manual of the car that it will choose somebody else's life or somebody else's health instead of mine, I will either completely not buy this car, or I will choose another car which is putting as much personal safety to me as possible. As a result, our approach will fail, because only that cars will be popular which are making the personal safety as a focus. From other point of view, even if I will be forced to buy or something, I will try to apply custom modes like we are doing, or like many people are doing for the iPhones, for example, where they flash a wrong software there, or while they're doing on the car, where they put additional bumpers or additional protection on their car. And as a result, even if this will be against law, and even if we will have 2 or 3 percentage of such car which has unexpected behavior on the road, it will bring us to a situation when this one car will be able to make a mass collisions, while all the cars will be trying to make a general safety. One car with such a special software will make much more damage to all that other car and will make this person safe. And this will again ruin the whole system and the whole approach here. Speaking about the manufacturer's vision at the same time, what will be from their side? They will see that people stop buying probably such car because they are thinking if it is really needed to buy such an autonomous car that doesn't really care about your health, that does care about some other health on the road. And they will start losing money, and they will either try to manufacture cars still focused on the personal safety and just making maybe a minimal efforts to spend on the public safety, or they will start cheating like they are doing now, for example, for the safety and crash tests, because it's already now that many car manufacturers cheating this test because they know that okay, they will make this test on the speed of 60 kilometers per hour, they will put it exactly under this angle, and they improve their bumpers to be best in this crash test, but not to be the best in the real world. And finally, speaking about the responsibility, the main question which two main questions which I want to raise. First, why shall manufacturer of, for example, BMW be responsible for the death in worst case or for the personal damage of the driver in this BMW car because, for example, there was a bug or there was a problem in the Tesla car driving nearby? And how does government proposes to handle such cases? Because it won't be really possible to prove that it was someone's case. Yeah, on the road it's real life, it's happening in milliseconds, and that's why I think that no manufacturer will go this and will follow this. And if we are speaking about half driving cars, then it will be even worse, because at some point maybe 10 seconds before the crash, this autonomous car will try to make a better for everybody, and then give a responsibility and give a driving possibility to a driver who will, of course, because he is not rational, try to save himself, and thus he will lose the time that he could save for himself, and he will do something completely irrational there. Which means that overall, if we do so from different points of view, from personal, from business, we will actually get less security and less safety on our roads than we would have otherwise. Thank you for your attention.
Just a second. I thank the Leader of Opposition for that speech and invite the Deputy Prime Minister to address the House.
All right, let's start with some kind of a rebuttal. I mean, I apologize. Only one mind for two people. So, the leader of the opposition told us that the car will always take the responsibility for the decision that is going to happen. But we're saying that only in case when the overall personal damage is going to be higher. So we are saying that this customer might be that they're going to buy less of those cars, but we believe that there is a certain reason why these cars were created and why this cars is going to still be bought, and we're going to speak further about that, and also about the responsibilities of the companies. They say that if the test car there is a kind of a bad technical parts, maybe some kind of a I don't know, like bad car part, the company should take the responsibility for that. But we believe that if this manufacturing ever comes true, we don't believe that it's going to be of a bad quality. We don't believe that those cars is gonna be sold if not carefully checked on the test cars and so on and so forth. The last thing that the leader of the opposition told us, that all rational people on the roads gonna take care of themselves first, and they're gonna do rational thing by saving themselves, and that's what we are fighting for. Not quite all drivers understand the responsibility on the road. road, and because they are all kind of rational, as the opposition side told us, we believe that the person driving are not enough responsible and don't take don't have a possibility to understand all the situation, whereas the machine can. And we believe that if this machine were created out of this good, great motion and great value, we believe that this should be created. What we're saying that when we have such cars and when we require people, when we put this algorithm working, we are raising more awareness toward those drivers who are irresponsible on the road. We believe that they could way more drive with less speed, because they're gonna understand that if they're gonna be more damage out of their driving, their car is gonna put them down, not the other people. So we believe this is a good stimuli for the whole community. If to put on the ways two things that opposition is saying, that we need to be rational, we need to save themselves. The minimalization of the damages is the first function of the state, and we believe that state has the right to do that, just as well as on other manufacturers. If you are doing more damage to the environment, if you are killing more people and the death toll is high, we are putting tariffs on you, we are putting you on jail and all that stuff. But now this is more mechanized, and we believe that in this case the overall amounts of the car accidents going to be literally going down. So we don't believe that unexpected behavior is going to happen, because while driving on the road, the person can be the driver, or the people can be distracted by many ways, but the machine cannot. And we believe that this is a great benefit of the self-driving cars, and we believe that they can make a decision while we are somehow distracted out of the road, and this car will be this decision will be made with the weighing of all the sides. And despite the interest of the driver, we believe if we can avoid the accident and make the overall damages less, we believe that this is our responsibility to do that. And we don't understand why we should put the rational idea of self defense of a driver more than those who's gonna potentially be damaged by his driving. Also, we can watch. This gonna make a good. This gonna put and make a great impression for the community, and we believe that this this motion should be supported. Thank you. Yeah, basically that's it.
Yeah. I thank the Deputy Prime Minister for that speech and invite the Deputy Leader of Opposition to address the House.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker. What I want to prove in my points is, firstly, in this case, utilitarian framework which proposition are providing for us are extremely unfair and extremely harming our principles, and that's why people are violating. And secondly, I'm going to talk about violation of property and other rights. But firstly, few points of extremist rebuttal. What provided us opposition in the proposition in this case? That each person, by buying car, are already be prepared that risks are inevitable, etc. But what we proved already by leader of opposition, that each person wanna avoid risk, and that's why it would be leading the person are gonna hacking the system, and that's why it's unfair to the person. Secondly, what they were talking about, machine was invented to avoid mistakes, to minimize risk. Okay, there was proposed this point about rational driving, but what is rational driving? Rational driving, it's when we want to avoid mistakes. That's why we provide self-driving cars which should follow all rules, etc., etc. But the question is, if the cars avoiding mistakes, why accidents already happened. So the problem something in cars, and I explain why accidents happen. And the secondly, we believe this policy not minimizing only risk, because minimizing risk is creating cars which provide rational decision based on following all road rules, traffic rules, etc. But this policy providing additional punishment to the person, and we believe it's extremely unfair to the person. That's why this alternative about electronic cigarettes not working, because when we provide alternative cigarettes, we give persons alternative to buy regular cigarettes, and these cigarettes not harming the person which is buying. By these cars would be harming its owner. So I would move on to my substantive material, and all other rebuttals will be integrated. So firstly, what we proved in first speech, that these are people wanna hack the system, would violate this because it's violation of our principle and a violation of person's rights. So firstly, we believe it's extreme violation of right to the property, because property should serve to its owner, but why? Because owner paid for the property, owner cares about this property, owner responsible for this property. But except of this, we violate owner's right to get maximum safe device, maximum comfort device by creating the device which in the case of extremist accident would harm this person. That's why this grant violates his right to the property and would violate person ability to control the ownership. Why it's also wrong to apply the utilitarian framework to this case, and we believe this utilitarian framework is extremely unfair. By this policy, we are punishing people of the car, or drivers of the car, or the occupants of the car, basing on the arbitrary factors. We believe that our justice system should be fair punish people when these people are guilty. And justice cannot be arbitrary. But in this case, it involves firstly punishing unguilty persons. Secondly, we provide arbitrary criteria. Why? In case of an accident, driver and occupants of this car are not guilty. Why? Because we have self-driving cars which making decision instead of the drivers. So as proposition provided us, this is rational decision. So there are no driver mistakes, there were no driver's violation, because this car making decision instead of driver. So why the accidents happen? Accidents happen because of coincidence of arbitrary factor. For example, bad roads, animal on the road, traffic problems, some criminals on the road, person just crossing the street in the wrong place, etc. So in case of arbitrary factors, it's wrong on the level of our principles to punishing or making person in the car more guilty than other persons if this criteria is guilty. So on this level in the round, what we have additionally, even if these cars are rational decision making, etc., there also could be mistakes in machines. If accident happens, there could be bug in the machine, because we have lots of this example. For example, last year Toyota called back its cars which started to accelerate maximum speed on the road because of the problem in software. So in many cases we have the problems in the software. So what we had in the end of the day? Firstly, proposition not fulfill their burden of proof. Why? The drivers of car or occupants of car more guilty. And we believe it's even if they proving this, it's not possible, because accident on the road, it's a coincidence of different factors. On this level, it's wrong to punishing everyone. And on the second level, it's wrong to violate people's right to the property, because if we violating this, we have all the consequences which our legal of opposition provided. So on this level of principle, on a practical level, that would be work, and it's not fair on this. Because of this, we beg you to oppose. Thank you.
I thank the Deputy Leader of Opposition for that speech and invite the Member of Government to address the House.
Okay, thank you. In my speech, I'd like to talk about reasons why we have started to use self-driving cars, about why is it unfair if we accept other mechanisms, and why it is justified and the people will still be buying these cars and will still feel safe when they buy this car. So firstly, I'd like to start with some points of rebuttal. They still say that it will be possible to hack the system, but the first government have told us that if there is a problem, that is the problem of mechanism. We are talking about that actually we will be carefully examining if it will be possible to do that. So the hackers, the people, they will be trying to do that, and but we actually say that they will be not succeed in doing it. Then they say that we are punishing drivers of the car, but the fact that you possess the car doesn't give you any benefits, because actually we are minimizing overall personal damages. So there still may be a situation when you are in the car with your family and there's another driver and you are crashing. So you will feel safe because you know that the car firstly will save your family, because it is your personal overall it will be personally overall better and will be more useful. And secondly, they say that there is no guilty of the driver, that he or she may have some damage because of that, but actually there is no guilty of anyone, and they say even that it is coincidence. So but we still have to choose for whom to die, whom to still alive, and we say that even if he is not guilty, we will still, this mechanism will try to do the best to have the best consequences in all the cases. So I'd like to start with the reason why we are using actually self-driving cars, because drivers in many cases, they are just trying to save their lives for the first time, and they're becoming alive. Also 3 or 4 people may be dead because of them, and we say that it is the problem of our society that exists now, and we are trying to invent those self-driving cars in order for this case, this unfair cases not to be true. And we say that this purpose, this aim can be done, can be achieved only if we use such system that is actually minimizing overall personal damages. So that is why we are using these self-driving cars. That is why we are trying to show our society, and we are actually decreasing overall damages at the roads. So we say that to our society that yes, of course, that may happen. You may still be in minority, but in most of cases it is actually a really rare case. But still, we are saying that the overall level of accidents on the road with such system will be less, so we are making our population to feel safe because of that. Secondly, we say that other system will be actually quite unfair, because the fact that you possess the car doesn't give you any benefits. Maybe you will feel less safe because of that, as our opposition said, but anyway, it is quite rare case, and we will show you that other cases, like for example, if we will be trying to save firstly the person that be more unfair, because we have the person, other people who may for whom there will be bigger damages in any way, who also have dignities, and we say that they are equal. All the people are equal in their lives, so there will be equal opportunity as you get damaged and as the other person gets damaged. And we are saying about the equal opportunities, and that is right. And thirdly, we say that it is justified, and the people will feel safe. Why so? Because it is quite rare case. Only there will be 1 to million case that there will be such situation, and you will be in minority, and for you it will cause some serious damage, and we say that it is unlikely to happen, and that is why there is possibility then that you will be in those majority, and that is why our people will feel more safe. And that is why in the case where all the overall level of some damages at the roads will be less. You will get to know there will be less amount of accidents, and moreover, in many there is bigger probability that you will be in majority. You will feel yourself safe. Thank you.
Just a second. I thank the member of government for that speech and invite the member of opposition to address the House. Who is the member of opposition?
1 second, it should be Igor. I ask him what is happening.
Okay.
Sorry, can you hear me now?
Yes, we
Oh,
can.
I'm so sorry. I just forced to change my device. Sorry.
It's okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Speaker, for the speech. And firstly, I will start from the rebuttal. First of all, we have heard from our government side about safety vault in case of all people will have such cars, and any world will be safety. But we also do believe that in case of every people will have only these cars with this system, it will be really safety world. But we will prove in this case that there is no such cases when we will have this situation, because people have some self-love instinct, because people want to live, and people will not use this car anymore. Second, we have heard about just a second, sorry. Second, we have heard about equality and other systems are unfair because we have some inequality and it's really unfair. But we do believe that people have really possibility and opportunity to pay for their safety. So if I want to have a really safety car, I will pay more and more, and I will have really satisfaction for this payment, and the satisfaction is my safety. So it's not about only the price of the car, it's also about repairing and so on and so on. So if I want to be in safety, I will pay for it, and we think that it's really fair situation. It's justified when people who don't pay for the safety and don't do the repairs in time, they will have more risks in this case, and we think it's really justified world. So what about our case? We think and we believe that we will always have the situation when we have not only cars with this system. We will also have manual cars with manual driving and self-driving car without this system. And in this case, because of right now we have balance in our road. Why? Because everyone have self-love instinct and everyone want to live. So in case of accident, everyone care about himself firstly, and we think it justifies situation. We also have these cases in, for instance, during the plane. We have heard everyone about oxygen mask. You should firstly bring us it yourself, and then you should care about children and other neighbors. So because the case of accident is really it's really damaged situation, and we should care about ourselves firstly. And we think that in case of unbalanced situation, some cars and drivers will be in double damage, and some cars with manual driving or without the system self-driving will be in double secured. And we think it's a different kind of property, because if I want to be more safety and more comfort, I will pay for this kind of property, and I want to pay for my property, but not for public property and property and public safety. So we think that it's a really unfair situation when we have these cases. And what about market, and what about the demand of these cars? Because every people will understand that more expensive car I'll buy, more risks I have, and we think it's really a really damaged situation, and nobody will buy this car, and more unsafety situation we will have in our world. Thank you for your attention.
Okay, I thank the member of opposition for that speech and invite the government whip to address the House.
Okay, it's again me because my teammate has some problems with the internet, so I'll try to be an Iron Man. So what we have just heard is only about the mechanism. We have heard that oh, they will not be buying such cars, or there will be some rare cases when there will be wrong software and the people will try to do that wrong software. But actually, why are people will want, first we believe that it is not so important in this game if they will want to buy such cars or they will not want to buy such cars, because they will just not have other opportunities. And we believe that actually they will buy it to decrease their responsibility, because on the roads, when you are actually driving, you don't want to be responsible for any road accidents. You don't want to be blamed afterwards. So that is the main reason why people are buying such cars and will be likely to be buying such cars. So then Igor said that everyone care about himself and it is like okay. But we say that we are government, we are just caring about overall society safeness, and we say that this overall safeness is more important for us, because as individual is irrational, he doesn't know how to act in
Point
such
of information.
situations. No, thank you. He doesn't know how to act in such situations. He is irrational, and that is the case why the government has the right to decide for the individual, to cause the overall society happiness and to protect the rights of majority even in this case. So that is why even if the individual is so irrational, and as Igor said, he wants to only to pay for his property, we say that we first care about the property of the whole nation. Yeah.
If government in our society would base our decisions on the majority, we wouldn't have affirmative action, we wouldn't save our soldiers from enemy, etc., etc. So we're not basing only on utilitarian framework our decision, because it's wrong on level and principle, as we told.
Okay, in our case, we are not caring about the only utilitarian principle. We are caring about our moral principles and what we actually should do. So what we have been talking about during this game. So firstly, let's first talk about the easiest one, what will cause more damage. They said that if there will be some cases where there will be wrong software, where there will feel themselves less safe, but we say that overall level, while buying such cars, level of crashes, level of accidents in our country is will be decreasing, and that is why that is what we have to care about in the most cases, not about such rare cases as wrong software. Of course, it may happen, but we will do everything to avoid it. Then let's talk about safety. So they said that individual, when he will be driving a car, will not feel himself safe, because the system will be trying to save to cause the less damage, overall damage. But we say that he will actually feel himself more safe, because when he's in minority and when there is an accident, there will be much rare case of him causing damage than in other cases when he's in majority. So he's more likely to be in majority, and that is why that is quite rare case, and that is why it is more rational to act like that and to adapt to get such system. And that is why we have been talking about, they have told us that a person actually is rational and he wants to avoid the risks, but we still say that person understands that thus while buying such car he will be useful for society, and he will cause more damage. The person doesn't want to be guilty for the accidents where he, for example, survives and where other 5 people die. And because of this responsibility, we say that they will be not trying actually to get those wrong software and to try to hack the system. And that is why we are not talking about who is guilty. We actually don't know it. It's not about that game. But we're saying that overall happiness, the overall moral principles is important for us, and that is actually the primary goal of our state. Thank you.
I thank the government whip for that speech and invite the opposition whip to close this debate.
Hi to everyone. I want to close this game and make some summarize of it. Let's start. First of all, we don't agree with the idea of government to play in some closed future world where everything is okay. We have all these cars and just want to answer the questions, would we provide this soft or no? Why? Because we really believe that there wouldn't be such early adopters who will buy these cars. We really believe that people who are driving general cars, they are saving their own lives. And there would be much more risk for drivers in these cars with this soft, because they have risk from this soft to hurt their lives, and they have risk from another drivers on the road. And we really understand that we will never reach this world. And in this case, we don't understand how it works in the case of the government, how it would be provided, and why we should do this. But even let's imagine that we buy the case of government. We will show you some point of mistakes which we have. First of all, we would answer the question, who is guilty in this situation? In the case of the future, where we have 100% of these cars, it means that there is no accidents by the rules. What it means? Each car drives only for the rules. It means that no one car would hurt another car. It means that all people are safe. But we understand that there might be accident. What accident? When some drunk people would stand on the road, when there would be weather accident and we would have fallen tree on the road or something like this. It means that there is no the guilty of the company who made this car, because it is not the guilty of it and it drive and follow all the driving rules. It's not the guilty of the person who buy this car. And it means that I'm buying a car, but you're making me guilty for the accident on which I couldn't influence, and you making the risk for my life for it. And we are talking that it's not unfair. It's not the idea of the government to punish the people who is not guilty, and to make safety for the people who are guilty on this accident, when we are talking about some people who are breaking the rules and they are not the drivers of this of some cars. Let's talk about the punishment. The second point is much more interesting, because we really understand that nowadays there are different cars, and some people buy BMW, some people buy Hyundai. Hyundai means more risk, more cheaper, and it's work in this world. When you want to be more safety, you buy more safety car. But in the case of the government, more cheaper car I buy, more safety I am. Why? Because the person who buy better car make risk for himself. It means that this car would save another lives, but not his lives more better. And we really understand that firstly it's unfair, secondly it's changed the market and changed the ideological of buying this car, investing on some researches, and so on and so on. And the third point which we want to talk about, it's the paradigm of property. In the real world, it's our property. We buy it and it serves for its owner. In our real world, some policeman can ask me to take my car to reach another person, but I know it is good for society and there is no risk for me. But in the case of the government, we're saying that it's your property, you buy it, but it should serve for society. In the case of real harm, this car wouldn't serve to you, your real owner. This car would serve to society, and this car would saving another people's, but not you. And we really understand that in this case, no one would interested in development this car. No one would interested to buy another car, to buy more good car in this world. And this is why we understand that the case of responsibility would not work in the world of government. But we, for another side, show the huge damage and another risk because of what we couldn't provide this law. Thanks.
Well, I thank the speakers, indeed all speakers, for this debate. Just give me a few minutes to get my thoughts in order before I talk to you guys.
How's it going, Ari?
Hello. I forgot that I'm judging this with Natalia. So I'm in a Facebook chat with Natalia talking about this debate. I just wanted to
Okay.
give you guys that information. I'm
Okay,
sorry
cool.
this is taking longer than you probably expected or
No.
I expected, okay? Just a second.
No problem with that. We're just checking if you are still there.
Yeah, I am.
Alright, no problem then. Okay.
Hello. I'm terribly sorry for the delay. I started like juggling ideas around before I realized that Natalia was judging this round as well. So we had to do a discussion after my after I already had spent a few minutes um, thinking to myself, and it was actually a very interesting discussion that I had with Natalia. But the system of Skype does not facilitate discussion a lot, so there are a few misunderstandings while we were doing our discussion. Anyway, I'll give you the rankings. I'll try to justify those rankings, and if you want, I can try to give you some extra feedback afterwards and coaching and so on. So we gave we came to unanimous decision. We gave the first to closing op. We gave the second to closing gov. We gave the third to opening op, and we gave the fourth to opening gov. So it went from fourth, third, second, first. So essentially, I think that the teams were always able to sort of push over the teams that came before them, and that sort of recognizes that is recognized in the rankings through this call. So chronologically, seems like a good idea to justify these rankings. So the opening government essentially says that this policy is meant at providing greater safety for people, that the government has a responsibility to provide such safety, and that these self-driving cars would eventually lead to like less mistakes. And then there's also this idea that we want to raise awareness and society will feel impressed. I don't really understood that. But maybe you could develop those ideas into arguments, but I really couldn't get where you were getting at with those. But the main idea was that through this programming, we would be reducing overall damage, and that the state has an obligation to do that. In response to this, we essentially have two ideas by opening opposition. The first of which is essentially saying that this people would find, manufacturers and buyers would find ways to not use this policy. So maybe they would still buy cars that are manually driven, or that they would buy cars that would cheat this mechanism through some form of custom modes or something like that. I don't think that they are able to sell the point that this would lead to worse outcomes. So if some cars have this and others don't, why would we be worse off than we are right now? Then the second point is essentially saying that this is unfair, that this policy would be unfair. They try to do this by anchoring their argument on the idea of property rights, saying that people have a right to property, but I don't feel like I don't think that they are able to provide us with a substantial reason for us to value property rights higher than we value this goal of reducing overall damages in society. There are certain circumstances where I think it's reasonable to think that there are certain circumstances in which reducing overall damage would be so beneficial that it would be fair for us to impose some limitations on property rights. The second idea is a bit more persuasive, or it's more persuasive. The second idea is that by opening opposition, is that we are essentially punishing people who have done no traffic violation, who have done nothing wrong. And there are probably violations of others. And I think that you could have really developed further this idea that there could be violations of others. So not on the, because you talk about violations of the manufacturers, violations of eventually people on the road. But I think that you forgot what would become, I think, the winning argument for closing opposition, which was the idea that in a world where you have people with self-driving cars and people who don't have self-driving cars, people with not self-driving cars, with manual cars, would probably still be committing a lot of traffic violations and making lots of accidents happen, and so those would be the ones creating probably the vast majority of the accidents. I think that if opening up opposition had developed this argument further, their argument of we are punishing the wrong people would be much more persuasive. As it was, I think that the response from closing government was persuasive enough. So closing government says in response to what I think is the most determined argument of opening opposition, that here it's not a matter of punishing people, it's just a matter of, like, because the accident is inevitable and because in many circumstances no one is at fault. So it's not like these are like freak accidents where like a tree falls down or something like that. So no one is guilty. It's not a matter of deciding who should we punish. It's a matter of, if no one is guilty, it's a matter of just trying to make everyone as safe as possible and try to reduce the overall damage. I think that is a powerful enough response against opening opposition, saying that no one is guilty here, so it's not a matter of allocating punishment. But it's not enough of a reply to then closing opposition when they say, in fact, in the real world, lots of non-self-driving cars would still be hanging around with drivers forcing accidents, and so these would be the people that you would probably like to. These would be the people that you should probably hold responsible for their actions. Though they didn't say this through this way, I think that was their underlying or their overall argument regarding this issue. There are, of course, other issues in the debate. So, for example, the opening opposition had this point about people cheating. I don't think that there's a sufficient reply by none of the teams on government on this issue, though I think that the idea that, well, there would be like I think it's closing government that says something to this regard. Yeah, that this would not. Well, it's not very persuasive. It's essentially saying that this hacking and so on would not succeed. So I think that overall, opening opposition is able to persuade us that some cheating would happen, but not exactly why that would be a bad thing. And I think this is a overall problem with the opposition teams, is that up until, in terms of what is the problem of this not really being effective, I don't think that there's a concrete explanation to that in the opposition's case. I think that an argument to that, or an idea to that, would be something like less people would buy these self-driving cars, and there are tons of benefits related to self-driving cars, namely regarding the reduction of the number of accidents. So, if we want more people to buy self-driving cars, they should not be programmed in this way, or something to this effect. But still, I think that there's a problem saying, so what's the problem? Why should I care about these people cheating and getting away from the program and so on? If the program is bad, that is probably a good thing. And if the program, then there's these questions on opening government about responsibility, but it's more formulated as a question than really as a argument. So they say, so BMW would be responsible for the like deaths of drivers and so on. I can understand that could pose a problem, but it should be configured more in a way that it sounds, looks, and like works as an argument than the way it was. Then there's I think that the replies of closing government also makes a contribution to the debate by replying to the idea that people wouldn't feel safer and therefore they wouldn't buy these cars. They try to reply to this idea by saying, well, these cars are better at preventing accidents, so accidents will be rare, so people will buy these cars. I don't think this really engages, however, with closing opposition's point on how there would be lots of non-self-driving cars on the roads, at least when the policy is introduced. That would probably be a nice addition to your case, because that would be how this policy would evolve if it was applied in the status quo. And I think closing government is also able to build upon what was already presented by owning opposition in terms of this is nice because it reduces overall personal damages, and that is okay, by essentially saying that people would feel safer because the majority of times they would be with the majority rather than with the minority, and so this system would be able to protect them the majority of times. I think that these arguments, it's a bit like closing opposition says. If every car in the world was a self-driving car, I think that closing government provides us with very good reasons as to why this would be a good policy and people would feel safer and this would be a fair policy and so on. But because there would still be, at least in the beginning, lots of manual cars hanging around, the policy would probably be unfair, leading to accidents where the fault was from a person driving a manual car, but in fact the person getting the damage is a person with a self-driving car, and so in the end that would lead people not to buy these cars in the first place. So the policy not really working, and when it works, by being unfair. So there are also a few other issues on closing opposition in terms of once again trying to explore this idea of property rights and why we should be able to pay for safety, though I don't think this was very persuasive. There are also this idea of people with manual cars being safer and people with other cars being like doubly unsafer. I think it's very connected to the idea that I was previously talking about as well. But overall, I think this sort of summarizes how we reached this this decision. Any comments?
Now, how can we, I'm very sorry, about the responsibility, I know it's a very, like, a poor point. However, I would still like how we can debate about it and how can we frame it in the way that we can use it in this debate. Because I'm not quite sure, first of all, can we use it at all? Because it was very spontaneous. But
Yeah.
If we can, then I would like to know how. Thank you.
Well, I think that you picked the wrong example in terms of electronic cigarettes.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Yeah. So I think that maybe guns would be a better idea or something like that. And probably not guns, but I think that there's an argument for saying that objects that are very risky and that can hurt society as a whole should be regulated in a way that ensures that they are not used to harm society. That's surely true with guns, that's surely true with a factory that produces something very risky. So you should probably pick circumstances where the major risk is not towards the user, but it's towards people, like other people. Because that's also a problem with a car. A car can be dangerous to you, and it can be dangerous to people around you. So the state should probably offer some safeguards, not just to make sure that you are safe, and that would be like that manufacturers produce products that make consumers safer, and that's like examples from consumer protection, but also that everyone else around that person is safe, by making sure that people are, or that people have a responsible use of the very risky thing they have in their hands. A car is, to some extent, a deadly weapon. Actually, cars are responsible for a very substantial amount of deaths. So I don't think that I think that perhaps the analogy with guns would be less crazy, or it could be made to sound less crazy than at first it sounds like.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you. And then, is there any like list of the ideas that should definitely be open up on the first tables of this game? Because again, it was a lot of ideas, but I'm not quite sure what are the most substantial ones and what we should debate for sure in this game.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that overall, it's a very good idea. I was surprised not to see teams agreeing on one thing that would probably become one of the major clashes that could potentially be a major clash in this debate, which is the idea of how do we get more people to buy these cars. That would probably be a point more in terms of opposition, but I think that eventually this would be a significant clash in the debate. Is this making people more or less likely to buy self-driving cars? So on the side of opposition, they would probably say this is making less people buy self-driving cars because no one wants to buy a car where they don't have the ability to save themselves. And on the side of government, you'd probably say, no, people would still buy these cars because cars are better able to make like snap decisions and protect the driver. So there are many circumstances where a car, like a person, is not able to avoid the accident, but the car would, right? Because the car has been as like super fast reaction times, and the car is able to sort of crowdsource the response for, not exactly crowdsource. So essentially a car is able to learn with the experiences from other cars. So if a car is in a certain, because these cars work like in through software, right? And so this software is, in some cases at least, for example, Tesla is using a self-learning algorithm, mechanism. So the more people use a Tesla, the safer they get, the better they are at driving themselves, and the less accidents they get into. So eventually, you end up not just with the experience from one person that can, like, I don't know, drive for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, but it actually creates a driver that is not only like physically faster at reacting, but also has the experience of thousands of, potentially millions of years on the road, right? So these cars, eventually, in the future, they can be they will become very, very, very good at their jobs, at preventing accidents and make sure they won't happen. So the amount of accidents they would actually get into would be and that they would be considered unavoidable would be a very, 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 very small percentage of the accidents. If you do enough stuff, you'll probably could get away with of a situation not having an accident in the vast majority of cases, right?
Yeah. Okay.
So I think that context would probably be helpful on the government's side, and that the idea that this would lead to less people, that the harm behind this policy is getting less people into self-driving cars would also be an important issue, right?
Yeah. Okay. Now, how can we debate against the idea of inequality in terms of buying the cars? As the
Well, I
proposition.
don't think on the long term it will be an issue.
Because I'm thinking that
Like, seriously,
Yeah,
I don't
okay,
think it
so-
will be an issue on the long term. These technologies will, of course, be expensive on the short term because, well, some people will be able to buy these cars, others won't. But software is very easily reproduced. And actually, there have been people on their own, like, garages developing self-driving cars. Like, this is not, well, rocket science.
Okay.
It requires a kind of technology that is complex to develop, but once it is developed, it's not. Once the concepts are developed, it's not very, very hard to replicate this. So I think that it
So we
is
can-
plausible to sell that. Well, maybe this will be a problem in like 10 years' time, but like in 15, 20 years' time, 30 years' time at most, everyone that is nowadays able to buy a car will probably also be able to buy a self-driving car.
So can we possibly say that if the amount of those kind of a machine, and because of the mechanism of replication is so easy, the price for this car is gonna lower down just as any other product. If there is a lot of
like
that product,
gradually.
the price is gonna fall down.
Like, this is not very different from
Yeah.
or it is different in kind, but it's like any computer technology. The kind of technology that we are using right now, 10 years ago would be like top-notch. You would be paying tons of money to have video conferencing or audio conferencing online. It would exist, but it would be very, very expensive. Nowadays, we are doing this for free because a company like Google decided to offer a system to do this for free.
Yeah, it does make sense. Thank you very much for the comments.
Yeah. Then I think that maybe sort of a more systematic stakeholder analysis would have benefited the teams in this round significantly. So, how can we make passengers or passerbys safer? How can we make drivers safer? How can we make passengers safer? That would be a structure that would probably help you develop new arguments and be clearer about what you want to say. Then also think about how would people react to this policy. One of the ways in which they could react is by not buying cars. The other one would be just to get more people inside your car, right? Because get more people inside your car. Because the more people you have on your car, the more important it becomes to the algorithm, right? Because the more people are in danger if something happens to the car.
Okay, yeah, it does. Oh, damn it.
Right? So this is a great incentive to have less cars on the road, for example. So you could develop points in terms of in this debate by arguing that people will probably also react to this policy by pulling, like through carpooling, because that will be the safest way to drive. The more people you have inside your car, the safer you are, and that's like good for the environment.
Oh yes, that's totally true.
Good for like traffic in the city, for like commutes becoming shorter. You could even just add, for the fun of it, good for like social interactions and so on, for the fun of it.
Yeah.
It's a major point, but you could throw that in for the fun of it.
Okay.
I think that also illustrations would be crucial to this case. It's very hard to imagine how this would look like, and you'd probably have to structure your arguments in terms of different kinds of accidents. So there are probably some accidents between self-driving cars themselves. Then you'd probably have accidents between self-driving and manual cars. And then you'd probably have between self-driving cars and passengers, or like not passengers, passerbys, like people who are just walking on the street. Okay?
Yes. One more question, if you're still available.
Yeah, sure.
Okay. There was a point from Pasha. He told us that most of the accidents that happens on the road are caused by the say the environment, the bad roads, the animals crossing by the roads, and all the kind of like extrinsic issues and conditions. Do we need to answer to this argument, or we believe that this case is quite rare, and how do we need to respond as the proposition?
I think you could reply to that by not just by dismissing it, saying it's irrelevant, but explaining why it's not that relevant. So my explanation would be something like, of course, bad roads and animals and so on represent a large proportion of accidents. Out of most of those accidents, however, there's no personal damage. It's just a flat tire or something like that. Then there are some situations when, like, there's a tree that falls. So in those circumstances, there are personal damages, or the likelihood of personal damages, but there's really no other people that get affected, right? Mm-hmm. So the majority of circumstances, this motion applies to circumstances where you have to choose between making your passengers safer or making people inside the car safer or people outside the car safer. Mm-hmm. Cases where stuff like a tree falls, usually the accident is inevitable, but there's nothing you can really do to make your passengers safer, and nothing that you are doing to make people outside unsafer, right? Yeah. Well, I guess there could be a circumstance by which a tree forces you to crash with another car, but probably it would still be safer for you to crash into the tree rather than the other car, because of the relative speeds of the car and the tree.
Alright, yeah, it does make sense.
So, even in the scenario by which you are forced to get into an accident because of these like natural random causes, in most of the circumstances, at least that I can imagine, you are still they don't really apply to the motion because you are not making. You don't have to make people outside any safer or unsafer. You are probably just having an unavoidable accident, and there's really nothing the car will do better, or something like this. I don't know. I'm trying to think of like different possibilities, but I'm not thinking of any right now. Perhaps like you guys are thinking of situations where this would apply.
I have some more questions, if I may ask.
Sure.
Still have time. So first,
yeah, I will have to go in like 10 minutes or so, but
okay.
Yeah.
I'll try to be quick.
Yeah.
So first one, you at the first part of explanation, you told that from the opening up, we failed to prove something that it's worse, still better than the situation than now. Are you comparing a situation which we have now with a situation when we have driving cars focused on the saving of everybody, or are you comparing? Are we comparing the self-driving cars focused on personal safety with the safe driving cars focused on the general safety?
Yes, I think that is a very good point because I had this written down. I think that you guys should have been more explicit in terms of the clash you wanted for this debate and in terms of the what were you standing for, right? So it was unclear to me what was the comparative you wanted to establish. So were you defending not this policy, and so assumably like self-driving cars could do like whatever they wanted to do, or how should they be programmed in a way that you would be that you would support? So this would be offering a counter proposal to the proposal. That could be possible, right? So you could say that instead of being programmed this way, self-driving cars should be programmed in a different way. And then we would have a debate about what's the best policy, this or that, right?
Okay, actually that's what we meant. Yeah, we were thinking, okay, self-driving cars are good anyway, and the question is only if they focus on saving everybody or they focus on saving one guy inside the car. So that was our conflict. But yeah, okay, we could do it in an explicit way. And then another question is that you told that a second prop made a rebuttal of our opening ops arguments by saying, okay, in most cases, me as a people, we will be on the majority side. But how do you see it works? Because in most cases, I cannot even imagine how car will think, because it will be one of the cars who will think that, okay, if there is an accident of two cars, any car can think that, okay, I am a worst one and I'm worst dying, or I'm worst making these damages. So you cannot be sure in any way. So how then do you see it working? That most people will treat it as, yeah, okay, it will be safe.
I think that for this policy to make sense, we would have to have some mechanism for communication, probably between cars, actually. Because in order for this policy to actually work the way it says it works, by reducing the overall personal damage, it would have to know not just a lot of things about the car, but the car that is driving, the car that is not only about the two or more cars, because it could be between more than two cars, but also regarding the passengers on those cars.
Sorry, just to be quick, that's true, and even more such thing exists. It's called car-to-car or V2V. But my question is, if I know that at any point, at any accident, the cars around me will communicate, and that cars will somehow choose who has to take more damage, I can never be sure. Except for the situation, as you have afterwards made fun, that I just have to take more friends, in my car. But I don't really think that it's relevant. So in this case, I don't really understand how it works. That I will be sure. So for me, it means that I will never be sure, and thus, as we told, I will stop buying or try cheating or whatever.
Sure. There are always, you would never be sure whether your car would get into an accident or not. But I guess it's a bit the nature of risk when you are, if you would buy into one of these things. In a world of self-driving cars, you could also have a risk of other cars hitting on you to save their own passengers, right? Because there's also the reverse of the coin. You might be safer through this policy, through a policy of every car trying to save its own driver, you could be safer from your own car, but then you'd probably be less safe from other cars. So it's not necessarily that you are safer with this or without this, right?
I mean, what I tried to say is that and what Alexander also told, that as we know that there will be non-self-driving cars, pedestrians, and guys who cheat, the general safety, I can be more sure if I know that car will protect myself and every car will do something to protect themselves, rather than I will rely on somebody's car that I will try to do best for them, but I'm not sure, and I'm pretty sure that many of them are not following this rule, and then in reality I will be less safer with this approach. But that's hard to explain. I think that's more about the models and
yeah, like I think
it's more into mechanism.
Yeah. I can understand, especially because of the fact that there might be lots of other cars around that would be like trying to get themselves safer, how that could create an incentive for people to sort of defend themselves against that. Maybe this could be a way for you to explain why people would make that choice of like cheating through their cars. Mm-hmm. The level of cheating, I think that you would always be able to prove, that you have been able to prove a certain level of cheating.
Okay, yeah, then that's all from my side. Thanks.
Okay.
And sorry, I have to go, wasn't I? To
yeah. Well, actually, I should probably go soon too. Like anyone has many more like doubts or something?
Nobody's answering?
No. Okay.
Right.
I must run then.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Ari, for hosting us today and judging us today. So if you're gonna have any spare time, Igor. Hi.
Oh, okay.
If you have any spare time, we are always welcoming you. And my personal thanks for supporting the referendum.
How did it go? When is it?
It's actually today, so...
okay. Well, fingers crossed. I really hope that...
Well, our Ministry of Foreign Affairs doesn't believe that it's going to be a positive affirmative action from the Hollander. But we are working on getting the new image. No, don't be sorry. Getting the new image for Ukraine on the foreign borders and frontiers. So we're gonna work a lot, and this is a very special thing for us and very much needed support. I'm very thankful that you actually wrote a couple of words and tagged us.
Yeah, I wish I could like. Afterwards, I was thinking that I should have like picked photos with more people and sort of tagged more people. I was probably rude in that respect.
No, I think that you did your best, and you did actually much more than I expected to. So thank you very much.
Okay.
The next time, maybe we will be more united in the action.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I just wish you all the best.
Thank you.
Bye.
Yeah, bye. See ya.
See you.